In this class, we are entering to the last topic in green chemistry, and also our class in fourth semester will end up with this topic. So now we are coming to green synthesis. We have already discussed what green chemistry is, what are the concepts of green chemistry, what are the principles of green chemistry, and how we can achieve a particular goal to become environmental friendly materials. How can we make environmental friendly materials? So green synthesis can be defined as one in which the use and or generation of non-hazardous substance and their utilization. Here, generation of non-hazardous substances and their utilization, or otherwise wastage of energy and production of waste are reduced to an optimum minimum. Either non-hazardous substance can be generated and utilized properly, or the wastage of energy and the production of the other wastes should be reduced to an optimum minimum. This is what the green synthesis means. Designing a green synthesis involves choosing environment friendly starting materials that can be converted into useful and environmental friendly end products. So our target is not to get only the environmental friendly end product, but to use the environmental friendly reactants. And at the same time, we have to use an environmental friendly media. Particularly the reagents and also the solvents that we use should be environmental friendly, with preferentially a very high percentage yield under optimum temperature, pressure and catalytic conditions. So if we perform an experiment, if we perform a synthesis or new compound, then the temperature should be room temperature, or the temperature has to be kept optimum, and also pressure should be low, and catalytic conditions should also be environmental friendly. Okay, so this is what the green synthesis means. Next, we have to discuss what is atom economy or atom efficiency. We had seen atom economy or atom efficiency is one of the major point in 12 principles of green chemistry. So now we are going to see a detailed description how atom economy is calculating. Okay, and the concept of atom economy or atom efficiency, which was developed by a scientist called B.M. Trost, evaluates how much of the reactants of the reaction gets incorporated into the final desired product. So whatever the reactants we use and how much it has incorporated into the final product. So we don't need even a single atom should be a waste. Okay, so everything should be utilized to get the product. So it is considered in terms of percentage atom efficiency or percentage atom economy. So the percentage atom economy can be obtained from the relation relative molecular mass of the desired product divided by total of the relative molecular mass of the reactants. So at the denominator, it is the total of the relative molecular mass of the reactants. Whatever the reactants we have used, the total relative molecular mass is in the denominator, and in the numerator it is the relative molecular mass of the desired product into 100. So it will give the percentage atom economy. Okay, so desired product's molecular mass cannot be higher as compared to molecular mass of the reactant, because this is higher means it has already completely utilized, the reactants were completely utilized, then something added to it, it is not possible. Okay, and then this second denominator can be higher as compared to this one. That means denominator is higher or the reactant molecular mass is higher compared to product molecular mass, means more wastage will be there. And if both of them have almost the same value, then that is percentage atom economy. Okay. Now consider an example is given. Consider the addition reaction between 1 mole of propene and 1 mole of hydrogen in the presence of platinum catalyst to yield 1 mole of propane. So here this is the propene, hydrogen and then we get propane. Okay, so this is a very simple addition reaction, and it is not always correct when we talk about more higher reactions. So here the relative molecular masses are compared. For propane it is 42, hydrogen 2, and then propane it is 44. The percentage atom economy in this case can be calculated as 44, that is the product atomic mass divided by the reactant atomic mass, relative atomic mass, 42 plus 2 into 100 equal to 100. That means 100% atom economy. Whatever the atoms present in this case of the reactant are completely converted to the product. Okay, so there is no loss of even a small atom from the reactant side. The above reaction is seen to be 100% atom economical since there are no other byproducts. Like an addition reaction, an organic rearrangement reaction would also be 100% atom economical. Rearrangement reaction is taking place within the molecule or between the molecules, so effectively there may not be any waste product formation. So particularly if an intramolecular rearrangement is there, definitely there is no wastage. And even intermolecular rearrangement is also, we can recover the other byproduct if it is formed. However, neither substitution or elimination reactions would be 100% atom economical. So here, substitution reaction, one group present on the reactant is substituted by another group. So the group that goes out during the reaction is a waste. And for elimination reaction means some small molecules should be eliminated during the reaction. So that is a waste. So that kind of reactions are not 100% atom economical because there would invariably be products other than the desired products. Byproducts will be there. Okay. The greater the percentage atom economy, the lower the amount of wastes produced and the greater the synthesis would be. So if the atom economy is closer to 100%, the yield of the product will be very high. So the wastage will be very less. And now what are green solvents? Green solvents is nothing but it should not make any harm to the environment, should not make any harm during the reaction. It means to minimize the solvents, and which makes adverse effect to the environment. Because as we have already discussed, most of the organic solvents are highly volatile in nature, and plants, industries are all using huge amount of solvents. So all these are not actually environmental friendly. So minimize the solvent, and one solvent is green for one reaction does not mean that it is green for another reaction. And the broad definition for green solvents is a green solvent for a particular process is one by the use of which adverse environmental impact during its whole life cycle is the least. So this definition means that use of a particular solvent should not make much adverse environmental impact, and that particular solvent should be used in very small quantities. Okay, so that is what a green solvent means. What are the criteria for a green solvent? Availability and synthesis. It should be easily available. It can be used for synthetic purposes. And price and grade. It should be available cheap and should be available in good grade. And stability. It should not there should not be any reaction take place with the solvent, and the good biodegradability should be there, so it will be environment friendly. Recyclability of the solvent is also desired, and low toxicity of the material is also very important. Renewability. If renewable source is that solvent is renewable, then it will be very well and good. And performance. The reaction should be very well taken place in the that particular solvent chosen, then that is very essential for the product formation. And then storage. So it can be easily stored, should not be very sensitive, and flammability, it should not be highly volatile. Okay, so all these criteria, it's not easy to keep all these criteria, but some of these criteria should be matched. The solvent which satisfies the maximum of the required parameters in this respect is considered greener than the other for that process. Okay, so it should satisfy the maximum of the required parameter, that's all. Satisfies the maximum of the required parameters. Examples: water. Water is a universal solvent, as you know. It's very cheap, economic, and can be used in many reactions but cannot be used in several reactions. Supercritical carbon dioxide. Supercritical carbon dioxide is in the fluid state. It is not gaseous state, it is not in liquid state, but it is in the fluid state. That means carbon dioxide exists at a very particular state where it is at above its critical temperature and pressure. So that particular state is what is called supercritical carbon dioxide. And ionic liquids. Ionic liquids means the salt is in the liquid form is what is called ionic liquids. Can be organic salt also, and some polymerized solvents. Okay, and water is the cheapest, safest, and non-toxic solvent. If a reaction does not take place in aqueous media, supercritical carbon dioxide have been preferred. Okay, so all the reactions may not take place in water or aqueous media. There are several other or maybe organic solvent or supercritical carbon dioxide can also be used. Ionic liquids are non-volatile and also provides non-aqueous media for reactions of varying polarity. So ionic liquids is nowadays many people are using the ionic liquids for their reaction because they are not volatile and also gives different polarity. Ionic liquids with different polarity is available, and we can depending on the reaction condition we can use particular ionic liquid. Now we are coming to the green synthesis of ibuprofen. So ibuprofen is a very classical example. Normally we quote during the green synthesis process. Ibuprofen is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, very commonly used drug, used for relief of symptoms of arthritis and also as an antipyretic and analgesic. So ibuprofen is normally used for our body pain and some joint pain, etc. It's a very common medicine for as a painkiller particularly. The synthesis of this compound is a popular case study in green chemistry. We are going to discuss about the green synthesis of ibuprofen. And the original synthesis of ibuprofen consisted of 6 steps. So normally if you want to synthesize ibuprofen in conventional method, it consists of 6 steps. Results in large quantities of unwanted waste chemicals byproducts, and its atom economy is only 40%. So if you proceed to make ibuprofen in conventional method, it is more laborious synthesis, like it contains 6 steps, and then its atom economy is just 40%. A lot of chemical byproducts are formed. An improved synthesis method developed by BHC company USA. There is a company in BHC. Now it is part of BASF, another very good company, chemical company. BHC company required only 3 steps. So conventional method takes 6 steps, and the improved green synthetic method takes only 3 steps. And this method produces much less waste and has a high atom economy. So the waste generation is very less, and also the atom economy is also very high. Now let's discuss green synthesis of ibuprofen by BHC company. BHC, I will show you the website of a BHC company. You will all where is it? Yes, this is the BHC company website. You can see all these things. It is Brulin Holding Company. Okay. The reaction starts with acetylation of isobutyl benzene. So this is isobutyl benzene and acetylation reaction CH3C double bond O OH in the presence of hydrofluoric acid. Acetic anhydride is used, CH3C double bond O C double bond CH3. Okay, C3CO 2 times. Okay, acetic anhydride in the presence of hydrofluoric acid, isobutylene, and then we are getting 4 isobutyl acetophenone. Okay, this part C double bond is ketone, so this is phenone. Okay, and this is CH3 C double bond part is group is aceto part, and then this is 4 isobutyl. So this part is isobutyl, this part is isobutyl benzene. So this is 4 isobutyl part, isobutyl, and this part is acetophenone. Okay, so in this case wastage is only one molecule of acetic acid. That means acetic acid means 2 carbons, 4 hydrogens and 2 oxygens. Okay, and in the second step, this compound 4 isobutyl acetophenone is reduced in the presence of RAN-nickel, and then we get 1,4,2-methyl propyl phenyl ethanol. And in this case we have used only hydrogen gas and RAN-nickel. It is completely utilized and there is no wastage. Okay, so C double bond group is reduced to alcohol OH group, and this compound, same compound we have taken here, and this is carbonylated in the presence of carbon monoxide and palladium catalyst. It has completely utilized, and the OH group is carbonylated as C double bond OH. This is what is called the ibuprofen. This whole method is what is called the green synthesis of ibuprofen, and there is no wastage. So green chemistry of ibuprofen. So here you can see that the initial reaction of or conventional reaction of ibuprofen. Here this is the first step, and then subsequently there are 5 steps involved here, and after these 5 steps we are getting the ibuprofen. So totally there are 6 steps when you synthesize ibuprofen conventionally, and in the green synthesis we have first step and then 2 catalytic steps. One we had seen with nickel, another with palladium, and 2 catalytic steps, only 3 steps, then we get ibuprofen. And overall atom efficiency 77%, highly improved. And it was developed by BHC company, which is now part of BASF. In 1990s, the green route for ibuprofen production produces more ibuprofen in less time. So we don't need to go for 6 steps. It is laborious work, and we need just 3 steps. So we can make ibuprofen very less time and using less energy than the original process. This means cheaper products for the consumer with increased profits for the manufacturer. Okay, so 3 steps are there. So need to use very little amount of chemicals also. No need to use several chemicals for the synthesis. So it is more cheaper product for consumer with increased profit for the manufacturer. Okay, so 2 things are also there, and it saves 20,000 of waste per year, 20,000 of chemicals waste per year. Okay, so that is the beauty of the synthesis. Now just a comparison, original route and the green synthesis route. Original route takes 6 steps, here it takes 3 steps, and this is a stoichiometric reaction. That means they are not using any catalyst, only stoichiometry of the reactants are maintained. This is a catalyst. Catalyst can be recyclable. A large amount of aluminum trichloride is used, small amount of hydrofluoric acid is used, and atom economy is just 40%, that means 60% is waste. Here atom economy is 77%, and then that means only 23% waste. So that's all about green chemistry, and we are winding up our this semester's topics. So learn well So I wish you all the best. So you have to watch the videos of the classes, and then if you have any doubts, you can back to me, and we will discuss